Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu wa rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's The 99 Beautiful Names of God, Al-Maqsad al-Asna fi Sharh Asma'illahi al-Husna. We are on page 61 and we are reading the sixth name, As-Salam. And the translators translated this as the flawless. In Arabic, it begins really by saying هو الذي تسلم ذاته عن العيب وصفاته عن النقص وأفعاله عن الشر حتى إذا كان كذلك لم يكن في الوجود سلامة إلا وكانت معزوزة إليه صادرة منه. وقد فهمت أن أفعاله تعالى سالمة عن الشر، أن أفعاله تعالى سالمة عن الشر، يعني الشر المطلق المراد لذاته لا لخير حاصل في ضمنه أعظم منه، وليس في الوجود شر بهذه الصفة كما سبق الإيماء إليه. Okay. So As-Salam is the one whose essence is free from defect. Whose attributes escape imperfection, and whose actions are untarnished by evil. And given that he is like that, there's nothing flawless in existence which is not attributed to him and originates from him. You already understand that the actions of the Most High are untarnished by evil, that is, from unadulterated evil intended for itself and not for the greater good which lies within it and is to be achieved from it. There is no actual evil answering to this description as was indicated previously. Previously, what people think, I mean, this is really important. We talk about the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. So there is something good in every action. There is absolute justice, and I think I did explain this based on what Imam Al-Ghazali said, that all the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are just, because injustice is to behave, to abuse the property of other people. So the property of the other, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where everything in the universe is His. So there is nothing that belongs to other beings, so that it could be described as injustice. All his actions are just because the universe is His. It is His property. It is His domain. Everything belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in addition, we did refer to two sources in the Quran whereby people might detest something, thinking it is evil, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make something good out of it, plenty of good. وَعَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. You may detest something and it is better for you. And وَعَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. You may detest something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create much good in that. The problem is, of course, the short-sighted human perception, and probably just seeing that particular moment and not seeing before, not seeing after. You would rather go through this life without a thorn pricking you But even the prick of a thorn is good for you. Not you'll just go inside a field of thorns and you try to get pricked. That's not really, it's unacceptable really. But if you take care of yourself and you still get pricked and you don't complain, حتى الشوكة يشاك له فيها أجر. Even that prick, you will be rewarded for that in terms of patience. You don't know. You don't know. You have the patience, the spouse, both of them, the husband and the wife, male and female. Unfortunately, we have to specify today. It was given in the past, but not anymore. So and that's the only Islamic way. It's going to remain in Islam, a male and female, and Islam is the very last uh, frontier in making things, making sense out of the the normal, acceptable, divinely ordained social order. The same thing applies to a fair and just economy. The same applies to just stick to the Islamic worldview. Inshallah, it'll be okay. But as I said, this is the last frontier. This is the Islam is the firewall of humanity. If anything happens to Islam, that's it. That's it. At any rate, so one could only think about the what could be the result, what could be the end result of things, and it's always based on our uh, understanding and reaction. Tanbih counsel: every servant whose heart is free from deceit, hatred, envy, and evil intent, and whose limbs are unblemished by sins and forbidden actions, and whose attributes are not affected by inversion and reversal, will be one who comes to God the Most High with a flawless heart. Okay. In fact, uh, we the flawless heart إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. Um, Now, is it possible? Is it possible not to have any sin and that the limbs would be pure, untouched, unscratched by the prohibited, whose heart is free from deceit, hatred, envy, and evil intent? That might be the case, but the limbs. Because there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, كل ابن آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. All the children of Adam are sinners, and the best of sinners are the repenters. This is not a decreed, like an imposed state of affairs from the outside, a fatalistic state of things. We don't inherit sin like in Christianity, and no one is going to be the whole story about the construct, the Christian theological constructs are, and of course they would admit obviously that they are constructs because there is no direct reference to them. These are things that were developed over the centuries in Christianity. With all due respect, we advocate convivencia, utmost respect, but once it comes to discussing these things, we have to say that these are post-revelation constructs. And to say that Jesus Christ was crucified so that he will take that he is the lamb, he is the one who was sacrificed on behalf of humanity, and that God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, this is not the Islamic worldview, this is not Islamic faith, that he sacrificed his only son for the sake of humanity, which means obviously that if at any stage, if that order of within that developed post-revelation theology, meaning it's basically the Christian theologians over the centuries, if simply one step could be proven wrong, that is a historical addition, that is not original in the text, that really the text is one thing and the advocated theology is another, then the whole thing collapses. Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, for example. Jesus Christ was not crucified. And where is that kind of individual responsibility, which really there are political implications. If you can do anything in the world of politics and economics and social order or lack of order, really, if you can do anything, and because simply someone really took this sin upon himself, it does fit very well the a capitalist liberal social order, leading to where it led really now in the West. But this is also a chance to link what we are talking about with the previous name Al-Quddus, because when it was denied, we said that if you negate, if you deny that a king, for example, let's say a king is not an ironsmith, okay, that's not, though it is true, but it's really it's not appropriate. He is not a copper, he is not a weaver. Though it's true, it's not appropriate. Also, it might say it might indicate that it is possible that the king would be assuming one of these, as if it's possible. Of course, it's not. Now, we said that there are certain things that we can negate about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the things that, of course, in Surah Al-Ikhlas, there's a negation, a rejection of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, the fact is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not born. The fact is that he does not have a son. And elsewhere in the Quran, ما اتخذ صاحبة ولا ولد, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not take a spouse, and neither spouse nor offspring. This is negated in the Quran more than one place. And in fact, just think about it. Surah Al-Ikhlas is very short. The syllables are, for the most part, are very simple. In Arabic, of course, they are very simple syllables. قل, 2 letters. Huwa, 2 letters. So it's very simple. Lam, it's very simple. Uh, if not two, then we talk about three. But this, as a syllable, it's one, even if we talk about more than two letters. Uh, okay, it makes it easy for even kids to memorize, as if uh, the wording is helping in making that negation as simple as possible, and also it entrenches the negation in this case. That's for the Quddus. And we know that the Surah Al-Ikhlas spiritually is the equivalent of one third of the Quran. So you recite it three times and you have the blessing as if this is not an alternative, but that's what it is. And there's of course, if you read about the number of repetitions, there is number 11 shows up. So you recite Surah Al-Ikhlas 11 times, inshallah. So Tanbih, every servant whose heart is free from deceit, hatred, envy, and evil intent, and whose limbs are unblemished by sins and forbidden actions, and whose attributes are not affected by inversion and reversal, will be one who comes to God the Most High with a flawless heart. إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. Meaning that it is not only flawless, but it is really uh, uh, without any of the previous things that were mentioned ahead of the that part of the verse. إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. Among men, however, comes close in characterization to that true and adulterated, flawless one, whose quality cannot be duplicated, may be considered to be flawless. As-salam. By inversion, I think the salam should have been mentioned twice in this case. So the one who comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a flawless heart, قلب سليم, إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. So it should be twice. In English, I think we have only once. هو الذي يأتي الله بقلب سليم وهو السلام من العباد القريب في وصفه من السلام المطلق الحق. So we'll have two salams, if you will. Salam from as-salam, from the flawless one with capital letter, but we need another salam. We need another salam, the human being. By an inversion of his attributes, I mean that his reason will be imprisoned by his passion and anger. While the proper situation is the reverse of that anger and passion be imprisoned by reason and obey it. And if things are reversed, there will be an inversion, as there is no well-being when the prince becomes a vassal or the king a subject, nor can there be said to be well-being or Islam unless someone protects the Muslims by his speech and his actions. إلا من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده. That will be a Muslim, and that's really Islam. And how can someone be described as flawless or protector who's not freed from his lower self? From his lower self, from his self also at large. من لم يسلم هو من نفسه. In fact, ولن يوصف بالسلام والإسلام. So it's not going to be described with Islam and Salam. Now, if we think about the tongue and the hand, since the idea is we talk about the limbs, the defects in the limbs being tarnished. For the most part, it is the tongue and the hand that translate the hatred, the bias. The word bias is not mentioned here, but really, why would we generate hatred towards a certain people, a certain ethnicity, if you will? Bias towards one gender or the other. I'm not subscribing to any gender narrative. I'm talking about male and female, really. But there is some bias, and cultures do have such bias, and one should be careful. Let me say that there are circulating traditions that are not really prophetic. They don't have chains of sound chains of theirs at all. They are forged, in fact, such as simply it's a biblical narrative whereby Eve eats first. This is not the Quran, and she gives the serpent, Satan, and she eats first, and later on she gives Eve. She gives basically Adam alayhi salam to eat from the prohibited tree. And in a popular narrative, she's accused of depriving Adam of paradise. Now, this is not this in Islam. The Quran uses the dual suffix pronoun. Both of them were warned against Satan's temptation. Both of them succumbed to temptation. Both of them ate. Both of them lost that status, if you will, and you will never find in the Quran any narrative that indicates who ate first, like in the biblical narrative. So this is what we call, you would like to call Judeo-Christian, you'd like to call it the Old Testament, you'd like to call it, we call it Israeliyat, meaning that this is really from the heritage of the people of the book. So anyone who subscribes to this in order to put down, to demean, to belittle woman because I'm saying that she was the cause behind Adam's losing the paradise. That's really a bias. It's more biased towards black people, for example. Uh, there are so many biases. There is common bias, there is group bias, there is also individual bias, but the limbs translate all this. Look at, for example, the the most recent burning of the Quran and the Palestinian flag in Malmo, Sweden, and the the limbs basically by stepping on the Palestinian flag, by burning the Quran. It's there. The hearts. The man was basically wrapping himself with Israel's flag while stepping on the Palestinian flag. The woman held a cross while burning the Quran. It's what's in the hearts that translates. Like the limbs simply are, uh, they take the order from the heart, if you will. Okay, so these limbs are tarnished. These limbs are tarnished, and definitely they did not submit and did not submit to the will of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. These are acts of hatred you will not find anywhere in the Muslim world. Talk about 2 billion Muslims. Talk about Muslims living all over the world. You will not find them bearing the Torah or the Injil, despite what we believe about there's an original Torah, there's an original Injil, there's an original Zabur, book of Psalms. And if one does not have such a heart, if you don't have such a heart, if it's tarnished just a little bit, then one should cure it. One should purify it. The whole project of Ihya, the revival Islamic sciences, is to help one to cleanse oneself, to cleanse one's heart on the path of the hereafter. Suffice it, inshallah, for today. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.